So, Josh, as well as working in the shop as one of the Nose Guardian's assistants, you do have another role in all of this. Tell us about that.
So my other role, I don't know how to talk about that role.
Let me put the question to you in a different way. What is the gold nose of green ginger?
The gold nose of green ginger is a gold object. I don't know. I don't think I can answer that in an art way either. Oh my God, what's happened? Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't want to answer that question.
Have you gone so far into this world that you can't pull yourself
Let me
back
try
out?
and say, let me try and talk about it and say that when HAL 2017, so 2 years ago, in 2015, HAL 2017 approached a number of artists to come up to Hull and to travel to all the areas that weren't the centre and to begin to think about what project could happen in the community. And I did a test project here last year, which was making a false nose out of people's own nose. That's the noses that we've been making here today, like a kind of nose salon. And this project has arisen out of that initial work in the community.
Where did the gold nose come from?
All right, well, I'll just say it. The gold nose is an object that I made in my studio. It's based on a piece of ginger. My studio smelled really bad for a long, long time as I was cooking pieces of ginger to try and kind of shrink it to get this kind of wizened, kind of warty look. And then it was cast in gold.
That seemed kind of hard for you to say.
It was very hard for me to say. It was very hard for me to say because in a way my role as an artist now feels very different, or the least important thing is the fabrication of the object. So what I was interested in with this project as an artist was what can an object, an art object or an artifact, what can it do in terms of galvanizing a kind of social situation. And that has been extraordinarily evidenced in this project. However, although it's necessary that the nose is here, it's also becoming less and less relevant. And it's certainly kind of irrelevant to the social interactions that are happening in the space. So the original idea for this project was that the gold nose of green ginger could be a place that held sorrow. That was my most ambitious kind of hope for the project. And that has really happened. And we, as kind of artists and performers working on the project, have felt it very strongly that there's been some kind of need in the community that the gold nose of green ginger has gone some way to responding to.
What have been some of the reactions that have, or interactions with the nose that people have had that have made you think that maybe it's starting to get to that, starting to investigate that question that was at the heart of the idea?
Well, you see, it's not really the reactions to the nose that are doing that work. So the nose needs to be here in order to have a space that people can come to and a story that people can feed off and riff with. And some people are emotional about the nose and they get a kind of chill in their spine. But generally people are emotionally responding to the people that are in the space and the people that, you know, they can just go and talk to, specifically Jade, who's working as the nose guardian. And so there is a social function that the space is offering. But if Jade was just sitting here as Jade, I don't think any of that would happen, or a bit would happen. But because we have this kind of bonkers setup, and there's this reason for us to be here, and there's a certain kind of, sanctity isn't quite the right word, but it's a kind of space that is revered, people come in and they share their stories. And a lot of those stories are extremely difficult, and they're ones of sorrow, to do with neglect, or to do with illness, or to do with loss. And so, in a way, the space has held that. The space also, holds joy and wonder and a kind of imaginative stimulus, especially for younger kids, or for people that kind of buy the story or choose to buy it. So there are lots of interesting things whereby, like, for example, a kind of older kid said to me the other day, the sounds of the nose breathing, like, are they really the nose breathing, or is it just a speaker? And I said, well, what do you think? She said, I think it's a speaker. And I went, well, if you don't believe. And she went, oh, no, I believe. So people are choosing to believe. And that's the interesting space for me, when people know that it's not real, or they doubt its reality, but nevertheless choose to, they can see a benefit in the belief. And maybe that's why I found it difficult to talk about the fact that I'd made the nose, because I have also bought into that. I also believe in the luck of the nose. I, even though I made it in my studio, also made a wish to the nose, which I really needed to come true, about my own personal situation, my personal life. And I really felt that it was worthwhile making that wish.
What do you feel what do you feel, are there pre-existing cultural forces that you're tapping into that make that sense of belief work? Are people primed to accept an experience like this, or are you having to fight against a lot of resistance?
We've had hardly any resistance. In fact, one of the problems for me was that people were believing it too readily. Even though we're in a pink and green and blue space, and it's a, gold nose in a shopping centre, in the northeast of Hull, people were just kind of believing, oh, right, yeah. And I was worried about that, because I think that nothing happens there in that space if you just completely believe it. You just think, oh, well, it's an object that's just been found. You have to have some doubt in order for the magic to begin to happen. Just like when you're in the theatre, you have to know you're in the theatre to suspend your disbelief, to go into that imaginative world. So we've been kind of playing with how we can kind of bring more doubt to people that don't have doubt. And but I think we're all programmed. We all want to believe in stuff. I mean, interestingly, in relation to this, my I was basically brought up in an atheist household, although culturally maybe religious, but atheist in terms of God belief. And my sister, when she had children, she just decided, in her words, to believe in God, because that was the way that she could kind of cope with the fact that she had these children in the world that were that had a life. She needed some bigger purpose. I mean, it's not a religious God that she's thinking of. It's like a kind of spiritualism or something. And so she decided to believe. And I just thought, how does that work? But actually, that's kind of what's happened to me here. So I think I've understood a little bit more about what that might be, the drive towards a need to believe.